I just spent weeks breaking down exactly how Nik Setting built a 500k a month coaching business completely from zero. And in fact, the answer isn't even what you think it is. It wasn't his methodology. It wasn't necessarily his results. Everything that he told you that grew him wasn't actually the thing. Like it all helped, but it wasn't the thing that made him grow. The thing that made him grow was the way he made his content and his thinking visible. And this is what we're going to go through in today's video. And by the end of this video, you should be able to figure out, and I'm going to tell you actually, the exact things that Nik Setting did to grow his brand really, really fast and build a 500k a month coaching business so you can replicate it in your business as well. Anyways, starting off, taking a look, of course, at Nik Setting's page. As you all know, he's grown incredibly, incredibly fast. The guy nearly has 167,000 followers currently on Instagram. He's also got a couple of separate pages, right? So he's got also a page for case studies, results, which we're going to go through in a second. And he's, of course, got his YT. And what he's known for is the profile funnel, which is essentially his proprietary framework. Now, the thing about Nik Setting is, and this is just my read on him, and I've pretty much consumed like everything that Nik Setting has ever posted. So I think this is a pretty good read, right? Is the fact that you don't really know what he is. You just know that he kind of is an info business coach. So he helps consultants and coaches scale their business. But you don't necessarily know what he is. And that's probably one thing that I would nitpick. But what I will say is that his perceived positioning is entirely different because of, once again, his proprietary profile funnel. And as well as that, on top of it, everyone knows his visual identity literally signals premium, which is why the guy is able to charge 5k plus. 5k plus, I believe his price point is, depending, of course, on what he's helping you with. If we take a look at his old bio, which I actually kind of like his old bio more. He's changed his bio. We're going to take a look at that in a second. His old bio was thousands of info businesses use my profile funnel as their new way to acquire clients. As you can see here, through profile funnel, he's essentially pointing out his proprietary method. So whenever somebody clicks on his bio and it says, oh, profile funnel, no one has ever heard of profile funnel before. Interesting. What's this profile funnel about? So it intrigues people. And this is what category design, and this is what coming up with new unique mechanisms and frameworks is about at the end of the day. Also, on top of that, he has $115 million, which is really, really strong in tracked client revenue. So it's proof. And he's made the claim in his bio. He then, of course, is going to prove it in his highlights, which we're going to take a look at all of that in a second. He has changed his bio, though. And it's a lot more generic, I would say. And there's a very, very smart reason of why he did so. He did so now because he's in a phase of just scale. So he really wants to scale and he wants to target a broader niche, which is incredibly important for you to understand this, because you do not want to copy what he did. You don't want to copy what he's doing now, because what he's doing now, he's like trying to scale right to $1 million months. You're not at that level yet. You want to copy what he did in his mid era, which is what we're going to take a look at now, is his different content eras. We don't want to copy Nik Setting that's doing all of these and there's people copying him right now, man. It just doesn't hit the same. Like just doesn't hit the same, which is why I really don't recommend copying literally people's formats. You want to copy the underlying frameworks that they use and how they go, but you don't want to copy them word for word. You want to make the same videos. You don't want to make the same formats, because people will call you out. There's a guy that's doing it right now and people are just calling him out. I watched the video yesterday. So we want to follow when he blew up. And this is where we take a look at his content eras. You see, most people, right, and most guys on YouTube that are going to talk about Nik Setting and show you how he's grown are going to look at his current era. And I'm going to tell you, this is what you should do. And most people following, right, are going to follow his current era, but you need to look at his 3 different eras. His first era, which was in mid-2024, where he was more so of a generic coach, right? I would say that his content wasn't necessarily low production, but lower production than what it is now. And a lot of it was interview format, pretty much like talking heads, interview formats, podcast formats, the content that everyone else is doing right now. Now we take a look at his second era, which is 2025. And then there's the third era. First era, we take a look at this, is, look, lesson 1, why he didn't break through here in this initial era. Although his content wasn't necessarily bad, right? I would say it was more invisible compared to the content that he posts. Eventually, you'll see the drastic growth that he has by changing a couple of things. Now, here's what I noticed about his content, because I've watched every single piece, right? And this is how I was able to actually break this down very, very clearly. A lot of this old content didn't really have numbers, didn't really necessarily have results, and it didn't really have any like contrarian claims. Contrarian claims are essentially claim that goes against the current or initial market belief, right? You want to go against everyone else to position yourself against everyone else. as I said, the content wasn't necessarily bad. It was just pretty much invisible. Another thing also, which was an issue about it, is that he looked very, very young, which unfortunately you can't control at that specific time. But perception is perception. It's not like your reality doesn't matter. It's what you look like, right? So perception equals reality. And unfortunately, he just looked too young. And he just looked like a guru. And that's just the reality of it. So how did Nik... So he was given value here, but it's like, okay, why should we listen to you? Like, okay, you have got value, but who cares? Why don't I just go take it from Alex Hormozi? So this is where he changed his content up. And you see, this is where the Miro board era came up. And he was one of the first to do this. And in fact, he kind of owns this Miro board thing. And anybody that does that in the future is pretty much feeding into his format, and it's growing his format because he's the guy that founded this whole thing, right? Anyways, I digress. So this was really interesting and important because he changed a couple of things in this era. And these were the things that really, really made him blow up. Number one, he came out and innovated a new format that no one else was using, which is the number one thing you want to do. You want to come out with a new format that no one else is doing, because this is the thing that's going to capture people's attention. Not only did he change the format though, but the content within the format was impressive. He changed everything. Every single hook is always consistently stating a number, right? Whether it's speaking about, I don't know, the booked calls that he's got for a client, whether he's speaking about revenue that he's made or made for a client. There's always numbers, there's always proofs. On top of that, his tone, his tonality, his mood changed completely. And once again, we're going to take a look at that in the perception signal here, because this is a really, really interesting one that most people don't even speak about. So this was the area where things really, really start blowing up for him. So this is the area that you actually want to study. And this is what we want to focus on here, right? See, Nik Setting didn't necessarily have new advice or even better advice to the market. He just had a better container for it. The format communicated structured thinking and depth before a single word was processed. The format in itself is the authority. The format in itself does the capturing of the attention. Anything after that is cool. Like all the nice sauce at the top is the numbers, the proof, the breakdowns, the in-depth frameworks, etc. Now, I'll tell you one thing about this format, right, that wasn't brilliant, was I believe that at that specific point, his tonality was a bit too aggressive. In fact, there was screens shaking at some point from how much like he'd use his hands gestures, etc. Now, this is cool in one way because it's very, very attention. First of all, it's like a very strong hook. It really captures attention. But the aggressive conviction that he has, although it has high attention, it has lower trust. And you can see from what people are commenting on his posts. Once again, we're going to take a look at that in a second. Lastly, we take a look at his current area, which I'm not too stressed about now because I know this is going to take him to the next level, but that's not what we're interested in. We're interested in this that brought him to where he is now. This is the interesting stuff, is that most people miss this, is they try copy Alex Hormozi, try copy Alex, Charlie Morgan, William Brown, Nik Setting, all of these guys, and they try to post the content that these guys are posting now. You want to go and you want to take a look at what they were posting to bring them to that level, because the content game, when you're 100k plus followers and when you're doing 200, 500k months, it's totally different to the content game when you're only at 20, 30, 40, 50k a month. It's a totally different game, right? So now he's focusing, he's as I said, he's broadening his TOF, his top of funnel, and he's focusing on content that's a lot more broad at the top, because now the guy is really trying to push serious scale, and he's not as niche as he was before. Taking a look at his content funnel, right? So as you know, there's top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. Top of funnel is specifically just focused on reach. We want to get as much eyeballs to our content as much as possible. And we just want them to like what it is enough, like us, relate to us, find us interesting, or find what we said interesting enough that they just end up following. Next one is middle of funnel, this is where you're doing a lot of your belief shifting and getting them to understand like that this guy is like the real deal. And whatever he's saying seems to make a lot of sense. You know, it's shifting your belief. And then obviously bottom of funnel, which is what gets them to actually pay. This is where you're really converting them. This is where you get them across the finish line. So at the top, which was interesting about Nik Setting compared to a lot of other guys, is that a lot of other guys are so much more top of funnel than Nik Setting, whereas Nik Setting's top of funnel content is a mixture of middle of funnel and top of funnel. What I mean is that every top of funnel actually contained a belief shift, but it was broad enough for just scrollers to take an interest in watching it, which helped him boost it in the algorithm. But it was specific enough to call out to his ICP, which is really, really interesting. And it's really, really hard to do as well, actually. Because most people, when they do top of funnel, they just focus on just really, really top of funnel stuff, which is like lifestyle or giving opinions that really don't even matter to whatever he's doing. That's the easiest way to do it. And for most people, that's how I would recommend them to do it. He's really cracked it here, but remember, he's been doing content for very, very long. So it really depends. And once again, it's like, it depends on who you are. It depends on your market. There's a lot that goes into this, but this is what Nik did, and this is what worked really, really well for him. We take a look at his middle of funnel, and to be honest, there's no examples from here because once again, I think like these examples are literally for both. This worked as top of funnel and middle of funnel for him, which worked really well. Whereas we take a look at like his current content, it's a lot more top of funnel, and the middle of funnel and the top of funnel is separated a lot more. So back then with these Miro board videos, it was both. So what would typically happen for his middle of funnel is that he would obviously post the middle of funnel video, get someone to comment, or just get them to follow. That's the main thing. That's what you want to do for middle of funnel. Get them to comment, get them to follow. And then of course, at the end of it all, he's got the bottom of funnel, and he's a totally different account for that. And this is something that I recommend as well, is that you make a totally separate Instagram account, specifically when you have a lot of results. Totally separate Instagram account for your company, which is grow acquisition for him. And then you want to build a separate YouTube channel. And typically what you want to do is you just want to just fill those accounts with results upon results, case studies, etc. People need to just go into that account and just be like, damn, this guy has a lot. So when the prospects, of course, arrive into your DMs later on and they've seen all of this, which they will see because you're going to link it into your bio, people are going to be like, yeah, this guy is the real deal. Once they see the bottom of funnel and they've convinced that whatever you have works and the belief shifting has happened, they will buy 100%. That's literally the only two things that you need to do. You need to them first and foremost to change their belief and understand that whatever you have is actually the solution and whatever they've been told before is wrong. And then you need them to trust that you'll actually deliver on that. And middle of funnel and bottom of funnel content literally solves that. So when we take a look at his actual conversion machine or funnel, essentially how it works is that you have the IG reel. He pushes the IG reels to a follow, right? So he's not focusing on a VSL. He's not focusing on any of that stuff. He's focused on a profile funnel, which is top of funnel content, top profile visit. From that, there's two things that happen. You go into you will typically go into the highlights and you'll check out his new here section. His new here section, that's the new here highlight. And this, once again, is a full story of everything that he does with results mixed in, right? On top of that, a DM setter is going to reach out to you. And the DM setter typically, once again, he'll suss out, like the DM setter will suss out different people. The guys that are really warm, he'll push them to a call. The guys that aren't warm, he push them to a YouTube long form. And this one will typically have very deep value. And then the YouTube long form will typically have a CTA. And this is what most coaches do as well, right? But all at the end of the day will always lead to a qualification call. Nik will actually, in the DMs, send you a video, an offer video explaining his offer, which actually helps because once again, it's like I didn't really understand his offer fully until I actually watched that video. And then he'll prompt you to book a call after. So they send you the offer video first before booking a call, whereas a lot of other people, a lot of other coaches, they let you book the call, then they give you the offer video. So that was an interesting thing that he's done. And I believe it's typically to just filter out the volume, disqualify people as much as possible, because I'd say he gets a lot of volume and he doesn't want to work. He only wants to work with the top of the top. On top of that, which is the whole profile funnel idea, is that he's sending retargeting ads to his profile. So he's actually running content ads, sending people to follow his profile. So he's basically making it on steroids, his profile funnel. So he's sending retargeting ads consistently. And of course, I'm not going to go through that today because that's for a totally different video. So that's the funnel right here. This is like the thing that you can literally copy, right? So take a screenshot of that. Moving on, how is this profile set up? So taking a look at his profile. Let's take a look at this. Like, this is perfectly engineered, man, for conversion. And it boils down to, okay, who is Nik Setting trying to actually work with? And this is where most people get it wrong, is they don't actually engineer and research who do I want to work with. And then the people that you want to work with, which is your ICP or target market, what's their aspirations? What do they want their life to look like? And how can I make my profile look like the aspiration life that they want to have? And this is where you beat everyone in the market. because most people don't understand this. They look at Nik Setting, they just copy him, but they have a totally different ICP, or they themselves don't body that. So Nik Setting embodies this lifestyle perfectly and embodies this style perfectly. The old money vibe, rich, whatever. Some people typically just don't embody that, which is why it makes sense maybe for someone that's maybe goofier than Nik Setting to approach it from a more humorous, relatable type of a style. So you can't do the same thing that everyone else does. It really, like, it all boils down to literally, guys, understanding your market beliefs and then understanding who you are as a person. If your personality doesn't match, then you don't do it. And this is why, before I work with any of my clients on actually building any of these things, building their content plans, you know, like architecting the profile, acting how everything should look, the style, the visuals, the perception, we want to first look at, like, who are you dealing with, like, what the people that you're trying to sell to, and who you are as a person, because we want to show you up as the best person that you can be, and as the most entertaining, the most engaging, the most, you know, the best perception possible in the market. So it's very important we look at that. And once again, he's done this very, very well. With this type of a content, very rich, very affluent, his Porsche, right? We take a look at his pin posts as well, which was quite interesting, is that he's shared 3 posts, his story, so his story obviously builds relatability. Then we take a look at, I'm calling from Forbes magazine. This was actually showing that Forbes reached out to him because they wanted to feature him. Huge authority building here. Like, he's showing that, you know, that he's that big that Forbes are rating you. Like, if Forbes are rating you and they want you on, then obviously you're something. And that's something that typically these are like the first 3 things you'll watch as a new follower. So he's built authority within the first 3 seconds, which is very important. And then just a normal post here, just showing a very, very affluent background, you know, rich boy settings. Notice his clothes, by the way. Everything he's wearing is black, dark. So there's congruency and there's consistency in what he's wearing, and that's very important that a lot of people don't that don't seem to clock it. Like, look at this cap, white cap. Have you noticed that every video that I've posted on YouTube and Instagram has the white cap as well? I wear pretty much only black clothes in every single video that I do as well. It's consistency. You're trying to build relatability so that the next time when they see your 3rd, 4th reel or your 3rd, 4th video, they instantly know it's that guy in the white cap. And that's how you do it, guys. Same, another guy like Alex Hormozy, right? The guy in the Crocs with the vest, very muscular, short. Alex Eubank, right? The guy with the great body, but what's distinctive about him is his very, very long blonde hair. So you don't even need to know their names. You just kind of know it in the back of your mind. This is really, really interesting. Guys, the lesson here behind this is that you want to do the 3-second grid test, right? And the grid is like, the grid literally should answer one thing. And its job is to answer, is this person at my aspiration level? If your grid doesn't answer the aspiration level, so if you're a fitness coach, then you should look at what people typically in the fitness industry would want to aspire to, and that's what you show. Simple as. Similarly, if you're in the make money industry, like make money info business, that's what you do. That's all. It's very, very simple, right? Then we take a look at his highlights tab, which is really, really important, guys. You have one tab that explains pretty much everything, right? Explains what he does, his story, few results, whatever. But then every other tab is clients. And it's not necessarily just what's in the tabs itself, yes, that matters, but it's also the fact that he has so much tabs. And what that actually does is it signals that this guy has so much results that he needs that much tabs. That it signals that the guy has so, like, because if you look at it, right, most people only have one tab for testimonials and client results. Like, most people just have one tab. But this guy has nearly 6 to 7 tabs, even more, guys, to be honest. And it seems like he still has more and more and more results. It just signals, guys, that he's so much results that he doesn't know where to put them. And this is big. Everyone should do this. Massive thing they want to take away from here, right? Moving on then to the perception signals that he has in his videos. And I want to necessarily specifically take a look at his current era, because this is really, really strong. I think stronger than his mid-era. And authority, guys, is processed before the content is processed. What it means is authority gets built from everything that they can see, not necessarily what they hear. Because most people decide if they're going to hear or listen to you based on what you look like, where you are. Like, they base it off like the first 3 seconds, right? So the first 3 seconds typically isn't just necessarily what you say, but it's everything that you literally embody, right? And everything that the frame in front of them embodies. Which is, as you can see right here, guys, like, look at this. This is old money. chandelier vibes typically in his videos is cropped out. You've got the dark wardrobe, old money style, everything black on black. Even the hairstyle alone, right? He's got the flow cut, which is associated with just old money kind of businessman vibes, etc. Very, very cinematic lighting. Everyone's copying this style as well, by the way. And the funny part is you're just feeding once again into his marketing, right? So does he look like someone that matches the 10K price point that he has? 100%. 100%. He embodies that. Imagine he was just recording like talking head videos. Do you think Nik Setting would be as big as he is just by doing talking head videos in his bedroom? I guarantee you 100% he wouldn't be. So now it boils down to the fact that, oh, then it's not even just about what he says. Yes, that's important. Like, you need to have value. You need to say things well. But it's about how you say it, where you say it, the setting. Like, all of that is so much more important than anything else. Because here's the thing, we're in an attention recession. It's like people are not even interested in listening to you anymore. Before, they'd consume your content and then they decide if they want to trust you or listen to you. Now they just look, and if it's not interesting, intriguing, or just so authoritative in general, then they're not even going to bother giving you a chance, right? Also on top of that is his tone, guys. His tone. Before, it was high energy, and this was very polarizing in general to everyone else that was doing it before. It was high energy, pretty much just shout, and very, very aggressive. It built attention, but it didn't necessarily build too much trust. Now, he's calmer, he's more declarative, right? And what I will say in the contrast between both of these is that being aggressive and being very polarizing and very high energy is a tool to acquire new attention, whereas then you switch, and this is what he's done because he's acquired a lot of attention now, and he's more so focused on converting who he has now. The calm authority style is about retention, retaining the new acquisition that you brought in. So once again, each stage gets approached totally differently, guys. And if you study every single top content creator, business coach, whatever it is, they have all done the exact same thing. So before, if we take a look at his archetype, he was more so like an operator kind of a guy. It's all systems, processes, showing you the back end, etc. Now it's like he doesn't even need to do anything. He just sits there, very authoritative tone, and it's his way or no way. And this is really interesting. And you can't do the visionary archetype if you don't have the size that he has. Like, everything around him, his profile, his previous results, etc., his client results, it can command this specific style. But if you don't have that, you can't command this style. You have to go through the trenches and do this. Remember, a lot of this content is evergreen. So this content works in the background as middle of funnel. And all this guy needs to do now is literally just funnel all the new 2F visionary style content to his old MOF. And it's still going to work. It's not like the value changed, right? It's just where he is now in his business has changed. Moving on, I want to just point out one interesting thing here as well, is that the polarization, guys, will always be your growth engine. Like, being controversial, coming out doing crazy things, which is why these guys are, like, if you look at content, it's getting more and more weird. It's getting more and more effed up. It's getting more and more bold. And the reason is you just got to be more and more polarizing. And every year it gets harder and harder. And every year you need to be more and more polarizing. And this is what grows you really, really quickly. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, sometimes you just have to fake the polarization, right? And it might sound unethical, but I'm not saying you're lying or anything like that. But you're exaggerating things on the front end, but in the back end, they stay the same. For an example of that is, have you ever seen the guy that does cold calls, but he curses at people on the phone? That's very polarized. Like, it's like everyone says, be polite, do this, do that, but the guy comes out with a totally different framework on how to do it, and it seems to work based on his cold calls. Of course, he's not doing that in the back end. He's not teaching people to do that, but it's just a thing that gathers attention, which is why I'm saying it's quite interesting, right? Because it's very, very polarizing. Now, if we take a look at his comments, the time where he was very, very polarizing and he was doing a lot, shaking the screen a lot, etc. You can take a look at the comments, and people are just kind of taking a piss from him as well. It's like, bro has mastered the art of Yaponomics. This guy is just adding the same steps, just unnecessary steps, whatever. You can't even name one, whatever, of sense this guy is making. A lot of people taking the piss, which, once again, it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing that he's getting this. If you're getting a mixture, right, of comments that are bad and good, it means great, you're polarizing enough. If nobody's calling out your bullshit, then you're not saying anything that's strong enough. Simple as. Then moving on to the story sequence section. This is the area where he literally gets the most conversions. Like, this is his killer conversion method. A lot of people, once again, it'll be the book call, etc. He's trying to eradicate sales calls in general, right? And I believe that's something that's going to happen within the industry as a whole. And this is something that I really, really focus on, really big in my company, right? Because if you have a content engine, a content strategy so powerful, you can literally scrap out sales calls and have people ready in your DMs, ready to buy, even if it's a 10, 20K product. Definitely 110%, right? I've done it in my previous offers. I'm doing it for clients. It is possible. Is it easy? No, it's not. But imagine the amount of time, hassle, headache, profit margins that you can improve by removing the sales team. It's insane. And even if you need a sales team, you just have one guy that handles the really, really difficult clients. So anyways, here's the story sequences. Typically, it's like 5 to 7 frames. He names out a pain, gives proof for the pain, gives a solution, then has a CTA. Sometimes the CTA is a YouTube video. Sometimes it's a direct CTA. Sometimes it's a lead magnet. It really, really depends. But what matters is the text. The text itself, it's really, really good copy, guys. Really, really, really good copy. A lot of proof. And a lot of it is a lot of heavy text, but it's very, very systematic. It's very emotive. It pricks your emotions a lot. Focuses a lot on the pain points. Really, really, really strong. So I'm not necessarily going to go through too much into the story sequences because this video will be unnecessarily too long, but it'll be a totally separate video that you could watch. So now, taking a look at some of the key principles and positioning that he's incorporated that you can, of course, take and learn from is number 1, being first is always better than being better. Nik doesn't optimize existing formats. He creates new ones and moves on before they get saturated. And you can see from the timeline, right? He started with the interview style talking heads, he moved on to the Miro board screen recordings, and now he's moved on to the cinematics short stories once the Miro boards got really, really saturated from everyone else trying to copy him. Each format shift happened right as competitors started copying the previous one. It's not accidental, it's actually a deliberate strategy of staying one format ahead. The device stayed roughly the same, the container just consistently kept evolving. Moving on. Category ownership through naming. This is very, very important, is naming something that only you can be known for. And this might not necessarily be like some insane new science finding that you found or new strategy that no one else has, but it's packaging it in a way that no one else has packaged it before. And he's done exactly that. He's named his method and built everything around it. This works because of a cognitive bias. When something has a name, the brain treats it as a distinct category rather than a generic version of something familiar. So, for example, business coaching is a crowded category, right? But with thousands of competitors. But a profile funnel is a category of one. Who else is doing profile funnels? Now, of course, everyone else is starting to do it now because it's become the new thing. Now, the comparison shift is, instead of everyone asking themselves, is it Nik Setting versus every other coach? Now they're looking at, do I want the system or not? And because he's so great at explaining it, everyone does want the system. So he didn't necessarily invent a new methodology. He just gave an existing approach, a proprietary label, and trademarked it. And then this is also an interesting one, is that he's turning imitation into authority proof. So, and he's posted this on his story actually yesterday, where he posted a story and he's saying like, lol, kind of everyone's like copying me and whatever. Copy Nik Setting is what it said on the screenshot, is actually become an industry meme. Everyone knows that anyone that copies Nik Setting is like, it's become a meme. You know when someone has copied Nik Setting essentially, and he's weaponized it, guys. Right? So when competitors copy your format, most creators just get frustrated. But Nik Setting turned it into proof of originality. So every time someone copied him, he's like, yeah, well, look at me. I'm like the guy that's pretty much come up with this new thing. So he's using it to his advantage. He's using it as an authority. He's posting literally DMs of people saying, I'll wait before this gets copied. Right? So he's changing the narrative. The narrative frames him as the architect everyone else is reverse engineering. Every copycat becomes an unpaid advertisement that reinforces his position as the source. Now, somebody talk about biopsychology and the reason behind things rather than just mentioning the thing itself. He's got named frameworks. He's built separate proof infrastructure, which is very powerful. He's just showing you, like, he's got a full separate YouTube channel just for case studies, testimonials, and interviews with his clients, right? He's shown you that I've got so much proof that I just can't even fit it on the main channel, right? And he's really just made viewers feel the gap between where they are and where they could be. Like, he's really put himself and positioned himself as a real authority. What I think he could do better, not necessarily wrong, but what he could do better is that he could specify a little bit more. Like, I'd like to be able to know a little bit faster what he truly does. Here's the problem with it though, is because he's so generic in what he provides as deliverables, like he does pretty much everything. It's really, really hard to also mention that in one sentence. And that's, I know a problem that a lot of guys deal with in positioning themselves is they do too much, but they don't want to do, but they do too many things, but they can't mention it all in one go because it takes so long to actually explain what the offer is. But they don't want to put it into one sentence either, because then it kind of diminishes the offer and it doesn't show how great the offer is. So it's like a thing they fall into. Now, here's my contrarian take on this whole thing is that 80% of success, guys, literally wasn't how he said it, not necessarily what he said. I think the value is definitely there, but it's not as revolutionary as perception suggests. His conviction, the energy, the production, the format, the visual environment, that's the machine, I believe. It's the same advice if he used a bedroom and he used just a ring light. I guarantee you whatever he was saying it'd make him totally invisible. The big principle you want to take out of this episode, guys, which is episode number 1, is how you say it builds the audience. What you say keeps them. But the format you choose determines whether anyone stops to listen to you in the first place. Internalize this, understand it, and apply it. And here's exactly, guys, what you can steal from this episode to do. Like, that will completely change your business totally, right? And build you a content engine as powerful, if not more powerful than Nik Setting himself. Which is, name your method, guys. Even if it's not revolutionary, a named framework changes the competitive comparison from you versus everyone to your system versus nothing. Number 2, match your visual environment to your price point. If you're charging premium, you need to improve your visual environment. I'm not saying being Lambos and shit like that, but it needs to look good. You need to be able to look the part, right? You can't just be the part, you need to look the part as well. Another thing is you want to pick a format nobody in your niche is using. This is the hardest part, but I guarantee you it's one of the highest ROI things to do. You've got AI this day and age. It's so easy to come up with a new format. Like, look at this format that I've came up with, right? No one does this format. Tell me what one guy in the industry or even any industry that's doing this format right now. It's a detective board style. I'm going through from like it's not a Miro board, like it's totally different. It's like a whole custom, it's a whole custom page, right? And it's detective. You got the pins, etc. This is a format that no one else is doing. So anytime somebody watches this in the future, and even anybody that copies me will consistently always be associated to me. The detective board, the analyzation of different creators and how they've grown, right? The next thing is you want to build proof architecture, not just a proof. So a lot of people, they focus on just posting results randomly. You need to learn how to post results in an engaging way. How do we make BO funnel case studies be interesting enough to actually work as top of funnel? If you can figure that out, you've killed the game, right? The next thing is story sequences. I think story sequences probably are more important than the reels themselves, because that's what's making you the money. If you don't, like if I were to say, okay, you're doing 50-50 content and story sequences, right? And you have like 20% time left or whatever, or like 40-40 and you have 20% left. I take the 20% and add it to story sequences. If you have a little bit of free time, you add that effort extra into story sequences over reels, because that's what's going to make you the money at the end of the day, right? And it's what's going to tie in your relationship with your current audience. And then the last thing is you just need to accept, man, that polarization is distribution. If your content isn't generating both praise and pushback, you're not stating things with enough conviction to trigger the algorithm. And that's just the reality of it. If you want to grow, you need to be polarizing. You need to be controversial. You need to be weird. You need to be cringe. Like, you need to do all of that to really, really grow. And this, guys, are the things that we learned from analyzing Nik Setting's profile. If you're interested, guys, in getting help from me and helping you pretty much analyze your markets and build you a full content engine similar to this, everything that we went through, plus more, just book a call with me down in the description down below. I'm just going to audit. It's a completely free call. It will be me on the call, not an appointment setter, not a closer. I'll be on the call and I'll help you audit your content strategy and see if there's actually any room for improvement or not.